Inflation is one of the most powerful forces affecting your money, and most people barely notice it happening. It doesn't usually show up as a sudden shock. Instead, it creeps in slowly. Several dollars more for groceries, gas prices that creep up, a restaurant meal that costs more than it did last year. None of those changes feel dramatic by themselves, but over time they add up. The result is simple. Your money quietly loses purchasing power. The same dollar that bought something 10 years ago simply doesn't go as far today. Let's look at what that means in practical terms. Imagine you put $10,000 in a savings account and left it there for 20 years. At first glance, it feels safe. The money is still there. The number hasn't gone down. But if inflation averages around 3% per year, the purchasing power of that money drops significantly over time. In other words, that same $10,000 buys much less 20 years later than it did when you saved it. This is the quiet problem with inflation. Your account balance can stay the same or even grow a little, while the real value of that money slowly declines. That's why inflation is sometimes called a silent tax. It reduces the buying power of your money without ever sending you a bill. Over long periods of time, the effect becomes very noticeable. Think about housing. A typical home price 30 years ago looks very different from today. The same is true for college tuition, healthcare costs, and everyday living expenses. Inflation doesn't just affect prices, it affects your future plans. If retirement costs more tomorrow than it does today, then the money you save today has to grow enough to keep up. That leads to an important realization. Saving money is important, but saving alone may not be enough. If your money sits in places that barely grow or don't grow at all, inflation slowly eats away at its value. That doesn't mean savings accounts are useless. Far from it. Savings accounts are essential for short-term needs like emergency funds, upcoming expenses, and general financial stability. But long-term money usually needs a different strategy. Long-term financial goals, such as retirement, financial independence, and supporting your family, require your money to grow faster than inflation over time. Historically, that's where investing comes in. Businesses grow, economies expand, and productivity improves. Over long stretches of time, markets tend to reflect that growth. Owning investments that participate in that growth have historically helped investors stay ahead of inflation. That doesn't mean markets move in a straight line. They don't. Some years are strong and others are disappointing. But the long-term trend matters far more than the short-term movement. That's where patience becomes powerful. When you invest consistently and stay focused on the long run, your money has the opportunity to grow faster than rising prices. Another important tool is diversification. Instead of betting everything on one company or one idea, diversification spreads your investments across many businesses, industries, and markets. That balance helps manage risk while still allowing for long-term growth. But remember, diversification does not ensure a profit or protect against loss. Costs matter too. Fees may seem small, but over decades they compound, just like returns do. Lower costs allow more of your money to stay invested and working for you. And time may be the most powerful advantage investors have. The earlier money is invested, the longer it has to grow and compound. That growth helps offset inflation's slow erosion. So when people ask how to beat inflation, the answer usually isn't a clever trick or a single investment. It is a combination of thoughtful habits. Save consistently, invest with a long-term perspective, diversify your investments, keep costs reasonable, and give your plan time to work. Inflation will always be part of the economic landscape. It's not something investors can eliminate, but it is something you can plan for. When you understand how inflation works, you begin thinking about money differently. You stop focusing only on the number in your account and start focusing on what that money will actually be able to buy in the future. Because the real goal isn't just to grow numbers. The goal is to protect your purchasing power and maintain your standard of living over time. That's what wise long-term planning is really about. If this helped you understand inflation more clearly, consider subscribing. I share practical financial guidance designed to help you grow your money, avoid common mistakes, and make confident decisions about your financial future. Because building wealth isn't about reacting to every headline. It's about understanding the forces that quietly shape your financial life and planning for them.